Hello. So this is a performance review of Back to the Future, the musical. Um, it is by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis, with music and lyrics by Alan Silvestri and Glenn Ballard. And the current production at London's Adelphi Theatre is directed by John Rando. I'm not a musical theater person by temperament. It is not something that I normally seek out, especially the sort of big budget, West End, Broadway type musicals. It is not usually my style, but I love Back to the Future, the movie, the 1985 Gale Zemeckis film, and I was hoping that the camp would be turned up to 11. That was what I really wanted, was to see camp Back to the Future. That didn't really happen. Musical theater, by its nature, is inherently campy. There's always an element of camp in the genre. Can't get away from it. But it seemed to me that, for the most part, the production was trying to do a relatively straightforward musical theater rather than a sort of extreme camp musical theater. And that just wasn't what I was hoping for. It wasn't what I was interested in. The one person who really brought his camping gear was Corey English, who played Doc Brown. Absolutely amazing. For me, he was the main person worth watching. His comic timing, his ability to have these sort of over-the-top reactions were just really, really hilarious. For instance, when Marty, played by Ben Joyce, tells 1955 Doc Brown that they need to generate 1.21 gigawatts, or gigawatts as people would say nowadays, of energy in order to get the time machine functional, English just freaks out. He loses his mind, and he's just like flopping all over the stage, muttering to himself about how it's impossible. And he even at one point grabs this scarecrow that Marty had used to camouflage the DeLorean, and he's throttling this scarecrow and screaming at it. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear how much power I have to generate? And again, this just sort of excessiveness of it was brilliantly hilarious. He was great. Corey English, 2 thumbs up, fantastic job, keep up the good work. In terms of Marty, in terms of Ben Joyce, he wasn't bad. I think part of the reason I was unsatisfied with the performance is Michael J. Fox is just such an iconic figure as Marty McFly. Anybody who gets sort of stacked up against him to play the character is inevitably going to fall short. And that's not Joyce's fault. That is the way it is. It's an iconic role, etc. But then the other thing is, I kind of feel like Joyce slightly was put at a disadvantage with the way that the role is presented in the musical, because in the movie, sure, there are periods where Marty is depressed because people have been like, you are never going to succeed at anything, you're no good, your family is no good, everything about you sucks. And yeah, that does get to Marty, but for the most part in the film, as I recall, he is this sort of cool, I've got a skateboard, I've got a guitar, Ferris Bueller style character. Not quite as sort of up there as Ferris Bueller, but he's in that vein, right? He's self-confident. He is not concerned about the whims or views or negative predictions of those in authority. And what we got in the musical was a Marty McFly who he's a sad sack for much of it, for the first half. Full disclosure, I should probably tell you we left at the interval because we figured we've got the gist of the style of this. But the fact that there are multiple songs devoted to Marty being like, oh, I'm so sad. I've got no future. My family's lame. Oh, no self-confidence. Zero self-esteem points, whatever it is. The fact that it's set to music, I think, really drives that home. So that becomes central to that character in a way that I feel like it just isn't in the movie. And to be honest, that's not the worst element of of what the addition of the music does for the show. Because when we go back to 1955, Marty's parents, future parents, George McFly and Lorraine Baines, boy howdy, is it creepier. So in the film, George does sort of get up in a tree and he's watching a girl undress or whatever it is through her window. Bad stuff. Don't do it. Hashtag woke, if you insist. But in the musical, this is where they chose to give George, played by Oliver Nicholas, I actually think apart from this really creepy moment, Nicholas was very, very good as this sort of whiny, nerdy doormat of a guy. But choosing to give him a solo number, at the moment where he is being a creeper, that is the wrong time to give someone a solo number if you want us to have sympathy for them. If we are supposed to want him to get the girl, that is the wrong time to say, here, give us your big musical number. That is not a positive moment in that show for that character. And giving him a musical number at that point really draws that out. It draws attention to it. The same thing with Lorraine Baines, played by Sarah Goggin. There is a very creepy storyline in the movie where young Lorraine wants to have sex with Marty McFly, her future son. We know, of course, that he is her future son. She does not know that. But it is a very awkward element of the movie. When you transition that from this is part of the movie to here's several songs about it. She has at least 2 songs about wanting to have sex with Marty. That really emphasizes the creepy incesty bit. And again, if these are meant to be positive characters that we like and admire, the creepy incesty bit is not the part you want to emphasize, typically. That's a pro tip out there. If you are ever doing creative writing or creating a musical or whatever it is, minimize the incest with any character you want us to root for. Yeah. So it was an awkward and uncomfortable production. If I liked West End Broadway style musicals in themselves, it would have been a different story. but I don't. I didn't get what I wanted, which again was camp turned up to 11, with the exception of Corey English, Doc Brown, 2 thumbs up. Everybody else, yeah, you did what you wanted to do, and it was not what I wanted you to do. And that's not your fault. You don't have to meet my expectations, but that's where we are.